Let's begin with a prayer, friends. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, beloved Masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Guru Paramhans Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, and our dear friend Swami Kriyananda Ji, we humbly bow before you all. We invite your presence, the spirit of your teachings and your grace to guide us in our daily efforts, to feel your presence in deep divine silence and to channel that presence through our prayers, through our actions, out into the world. Om Shanti. Welcome once again, everybody. And as Barakiel was saying, it's very interesting actually. You might say on one level, he was saying that we have to talk about silence. And silence is a sermon in itself, as many great masters have shared. But then comes the question, well, what is silence? Imagine you're outwardly silent, but inwardly there's a lot of thoughts, turmoil, or you're having this urge to speak. Well, that's of course, or like the teacher sometimes will tell a noisy class, be quiet. Is that silence? And suddenly people are silent. And on one level, it is somewhat silent. But I want to share this one of my favorite quotes. Some of you who've perhaps heard this before, you will remember this beautiful quote of the saint Ramana Maharishi, who Yogananda ji had met, and his approach was Jnana Yoga. And actually, he was in silence for 12 years, meditating in a cave before he came out and shared with others. And many, it's not an unusual practice. There were periods in Yogananda ji's life, Swami ji's life, where they were in deep meditation, whether in a cave or in some seclusion somewhere. And outward silence helps a lot. So, anyway, this was the quote by Ramana Maharishi. He said, silence is the perennial language which is often interrupted by speaking or by talking. That I'm sure you've had this experience in the presence of perhaps your parents or a sibling or somebody, especially, let's say, a good friend. Or if you had the blessing of being in the presence of a saint, that they understand silence. They sometimes just say what you were thinking. I remember about 10, 11 years ago, I had the good fortune of being in the presence of Maunima. She was said to be the most advanced disciple of Neem Karoli Baba. And her son had been coming to our ashram a few times, so we became friends. And he just called me impromptu one day and he said, Ma is going to be in Pune. So I took a few friends and we all went to see her. Now, here was the interesting thing. She had already by that time been in silence for over 60 years, total silence. Her guru had actually one time told her, you should be in silence. And her son told me, he was next to her, he said, she didn't say yes. She just went in silence. And you might say it was extremely strict on one level, her obedience outwardly. She just adopted silence in that moment. But what was very sweet, you might say, of course, I had that feeling in Swamiji's presence too. You read the autobiography of a yogi, and very universally you feel, even just looking at the cover sometimes or reading a story, that this man knows me, this saint knows me, those eyes are familiar. You meet a stranger sometimes, stranger, because you're meeting for the first time, and you feel that I have known them. And Kriyananda ji said that comes because there is something that could be spoken outwardly, but then there is, like I felt with Ma and Swami Kriyananda ji, that there was deep silence. And not only did I enjoy that silence, she was sitting in a room, there was deep upliftment around her. There was deep joy. All we could hear was her laughter here and there. She was replying in sign language. Her son was translating some of those things. And after we had meditated, I had this little thought, I would like just a little bit more blessing with her. Just a minute later, her son came out and he said, Ma wants to meet you. She has called you. And there were many devotees out there. We were having a big gathering and prasad, and I went in and she said some beautiful things. And I just kept looking at her as I would look, at my mother, in this case, a little bit more exalted way, that how does she know? I was not trying to fortunately figure it out. I was just enjoying that process. And on one level, you may say that's quite healing, that you don't have to say anything. You don't have to explain yourself. Somebody has gone to the heart of the matter. Kriyananda ji said actually that he would, of course, speak. It's not our path to be in silence, except for brief periods. But he said, before I speak to others, I send a ray of light from my heart to their heart. Once I have established that connection, once I have done that, then he said, I add words as necessary, or actions and stories and gestures. And think about it, friends. It's a wonderful way on one level to heal. I want to share a story of course, now healing for the healer, for the person for whom we are praying. Silence is important for both those things. Like they say, physician, heal thyself. That first, on some level, we have to use silence to saturate ourselves. Ma could give us that level of peace and upliftment because she was saturated. Like, think of a rasagulla or gulab jamuns. She was dripping with the fruits of silence, of meditation, of God contact. And then words were very secondary. She understood your thoughts. Actually, let me read something Yogananda ji writes over here, which is very beautiful and consoling. This is from the book Divine Will Healing. He says, establish the kingdom of silence within, and the God of happiness will enter without prayer, invitation, or coaxing. Remember that another beautiful quote by Master. He said, where motion ceases, God begins. That you and I, we find ourselves in this world where we are breathing, thoughts are coming, thoughts are going, heart's feelings, the chitta, like waves, it goes up and down. When it gets extreme, like whirlpools, it is explained. And when we are praying for somebody, when we are trying to go to the heart, you might say, of a dis-ease, it is very important to really understand what are we praying for over here. So let's approach it in 2-3 steps. Of course, there is physical silence, and that is very helpful. I remember years ago, I had the good blessing of being able to I was staying with my best friend in college, and his mom would prepare food for us. So there was nothing for me to actually talk about and talk. I was preparing for an exam, and I could take extended periods of silence. And I was amazed with each passing day how much I just felt better and uplifted, joyful. And because this person was my best friend, there was hardly anything to speak about. We would look at each other, not even make too much eye contact. And there's just like, aren't we both doing wonderfully well? And like, again, it's a language, but it doesn't have to be spoken. True hearts can feel that. I'm sure anybody who spent enough time with a good friend or your spouse, they say with time, you rarely need to talk. You just understand. A good teacher will immediately sense how a child is feeling. I remember one time entering a class, and because I've had some medical background, I saw a student, and she had come much before time, and she was very quiet in a unique way. And I just went up to her and I started a conversation trying to bring her out. It was a very sad silence that she had on herself. I started talking and I said, how are you? She said, my husband has taken some classes, so now I have come to take the classes. I said, that's wonderful. How are they going? They're going very well. So she would say something and immediately go back to silence. Then I said, I should ask, how are your children? And she said, I have one child. I said, okay, that's wonderful. And I said, everything good at home? Anyway, I just asked once or twice, and then I had asked all the basic questions you would ask somebody you're meeting for the first time. And then I just sat there and she just said, I had one more child, but I lost him in miscarriage. Now that was very interesting because of my medical background, and I helped with deliveries and uterine surgeries and such. The moment she said that, it took me back some years ago when I said, that's the look she had. It's a unique kind of sorrow. I don't know how to describe it, like an aura or a certain sadness or silence of that trauma. But it just required for me to be silent in my own heart. If I was going about the restlessness or what's happening, what's not happening, I would have missed that this person is trying to heal herself through meditation, through satsang, of a very deep trauma. And the moment she said that, then I was able to talk about that a little bit more. Another time I remember a very wonderful student of mine. She was a yoga student, and she came and she said that she said, doctor, my daughter has severe sinusitis. Can you give her a good antibiotic? In this particular town, you wouldn't get the antibiotic. There was only one pharmacy and one hospital. I was working there, and she said, can you give her a good antibiotic? I said, so basically you've made the diagnosis and you've come to me for the prescription. I was joking with her. And she said, no, but she gets this kind of attack since childhood. So we know what is happening. But I was thinking, why is a teenager repeatedly getting such severe sinusitis that she needs a high-end antibiotic? And in these situations, it's good to keep yourself a little bit removed from that restlessness outside. And I pray to Master in these situations that, can you help me? Can you guide me? And I instantly felt I should ask if she eats chicken. And actually the thought was, ask how much chicken she eats. Well, that's a strange question to ask for somebody who has come with a nasal problem, nose blocked. But I nonetheless asked her. And the moment I asked that, it's like everything else was forgotten. And this lady said, well, she eats only chicken, morning, afternoon, and evening, sometimes without rice or chapati. Well, I instantly knew that nasal secretions or discharge sinusitis is a buildup of toxins because of too much toxin built up because of non-veg food. So you see, then I was able to recommend a diet, give her an antibiotic in the moment. But later she came out and they said she never had that problem. But you see, the severity of her situation was such that she was soon diagnosed with a benign ovarian tumor because of excessive hormones that come because of excessive chicken eating. Chicken is laden with pesticides and hormones sometimes. I share these stories because when we say the power of silence, yes, when you and I are stressed, let's say, and you're seeking a break, well, you close your eyes, you tell everybody, I'd like to be silent for today or for 10 minutes or 1 hour. You perhaps go on a long vacation. Now, that is a good start, and we all need that. You might say we go into silence every night when we go to sleep. But then the silence that comes through meditation, in which we not only silent the body, the mouth, but then Yogananda ji and as all yogis have taught, through the pranayam, through controlling the breath, actually when we become physically silent, we realize how much mental restlessness, it's like the thoughts start speaking, Aditya, and like, what's going on in my brain? And once you go slightly past that, you realize that they are actually jumping because of disturbed feelings in the heart. Yogas chitta vritti nirod. You have to calm the heart. And Master said, reason or thoughts, they follow feelings. And so we go one layer down, that I have to calm the feelings now. And once the likes and dislikes, even in one meditation, to some degree, you can call another name for likes and dislikes is bias. I could have been biased. I said, oh yeah, nose is blocked, this is a nasal problem. But you have to keep your opinions aside and say, what's really happening over here? And you see, the mom didn't know. She was noticing her since childhood. So sometimes we do not know what is really going on when we are praying for others. And in that situation, for ourselves and for effective prayer, to formulate a good prayer, Master called his healing divine will healing. That why has this challenge come to me? or to somebody who I am praying for, what is God, what is the divine trying to teach me? And if we can, the sooner we can reach that will, understand God's will for that, the sooner we can find a solution. So let's just quickly revise that. Let's try to take periods of silence physically, but after that, in meditation, silencing, like Master said in that song, or Swamiji, still your heart if you want to pray, still your mind if you want to pray, still your soul if you want to pray. And like Master said, if you touch that inner silence where you want nothing from God, God will give you everything. And when you have that silence in your heart, then you can say, Lord, I'd like to, and that's why we pray after that silence of meditation, that super conscious silence, you might say. And you say, now is a good time. Now I'm in a good state of mind to pray for others. My mind is focused. I have no likes and dislikes. You may pray for your so-called enemies at that time, because you realize that's a very surface reality. So let's bear that in mind, that first through silence we plug those energy wastages that is happening through too much talking and thinking, and then inner silence of mind, of the heart. And when we can be in that silence with God, then everything works very smoothly as per His will. So let's do a prayer. Let's take a moment to be silent now. Feel that Master is touching your heart as he touched Swamiji when they first met. He's calming, his hand is calming intention of mind and rubbing our hands together through our hands now. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.